and welcome to Zgermanguy Reviews. I'm the German guy. Have I ever told you the story how I got this excellent at English? Well, here it goes. I have been told several times by people on the web to watch movies with the original audio because it sounds so much better. And so I started to watch movies in their original language where I knew every single line back and forth. And for those words I didn't know, I had still Google Translate. It works just fine for single words, but not for sentences. I discovered this early on.
Knockdown.
And after realizing that indeed the acting and voices are mostly always better this way, I began to watch movies only in the original version. And TV shows, and video games, and books and comics for some reason. As time went on, I became more and more fluent in English, and that's pretty much how that story goes. This has been another chapter from my upcoming book, I from Me! I do still watch films in German, of course, if I am in the cinema or if I just want to compare the two versions, which is a fun thing in and of itself. Which brings me to the subject of today's video, dubbing. It is true that most of the time the English version is much superior than the German version. However, Germany has came a long way since the very awful days of the 80s and 90s.
Wissen Sie, ich gebe zu, unsere Begegnungen haben irgendwie Spaß gemacht. Aber irgendwann kommt die Zeit, da will eine Frau einfach mehr.
Glöckchen klingt, Batman steht, Robin legt ein Ei. Das Batmobil, das steht jetzt still und der Joker, der ist frei.
Ich hab gesagt, es sind 4, weißt du noch? 4.
I'm gonna save that scene for whenever I need to vomit spontaneously. This of course is a very broad subject. For example, movies would be better dubbed than TV shows most of the time. Also depending which TV shows and how successful they are overseas, and not all actors are equally fitting or unfitting for their role, and so on. But there are those rare times where crystals on the Ouija board align perfectly, or however this astral shit works, which then results in us getting very good actors who outperform their English counterparts. And so I decided to make a little top 5 list. Why not top 10, you ask? Well, the emphasis is still on very rare occasions. So let's begin. Top 5 times where the German dub was besser als die English. Let's begin with an easy one for me, which I really can't explain in any other way than nostalgia favoritism. Yay! Starting off my video without any real argument. I suck. Okay, seriously though, I have one. The versions I grew up with are more nice to hear, by which I mean they are less annoying, which I know is the whole point of the Animaniacs, but I think it's fitting when you grew up with voices that sound more adult-like.
Ist das nicht ein Kreidestück?
Ja, das ist ein Kreidestück.
Schloss und Schlüssel passt zum Glück.
Ja, jetzt kommt der Schlüsseltrick.
Kreidestück, Schlüsseltrick.
Oh, du schöne, oh, du schöne, oh, du schöne Schnitzelbank.
I think it's like this. Cartoon characters have always been these crazy creatures. And to me, it only makes sense that they would stay in this realm of craziness. While adult stuff is just adult stuff. See, in many ways, Animaniacs was also a very educational show. So it does kind of make sense to have a voice in your ear that reminds you of a teacher. You know, pay attention and stuff. Does this make sense? This sounds like it could make sense. Yeah, this makes sense. This makes sense to me. This is what I'm going with now. Believe it or not, while I was filming for this, I came up with a second reason. Animaniacs was the first show I compared the German and English voices. and there was a certain emotional disconnect for me. What I mean is this: there is no emotional attachment to my own childhood with these voices. There's no comparing those two. Nothing that triggers my memory slime. Nothing that makes me think or feel as if these are similar in any way to what I had around me all my life. It's like I would find out Sora in Kingdom Hearts would really sound like this.
貴様の拳などかほどにも効かんわい。お前はもう死んでいる。何？
Yeah, it doesn't resonate. Yes! Finally! I have an excuse to use this clip.
Heil, heil!
Ach du lieber, krustig spritzender Gaswasser.
Ja, krustig spritzender Gaswasser.
Such a beautiful language.
Now, this I can better explain. It is basically the same thing with Animaniacs, but a little bit different. This word diarrhea has been brought to you by an idiot. I always knew when watching that The Simpsons is a cartoon, but subconsciously I accepted it more as a sketch show. In the original, the voices are much more cartoony, much more exaggerated, which is not to say they are not trying in the German dub to make them so.
Was? Moment, wer spricht da? Ich glaube... Die Frage ist nicht, wer da spricht, sondern wo ist Homer Simpson? Oh, Entschuldigung, Rektor Skinner, Verzeihung. Ich fürchte, da war irgendjemand in der Leitung.
But it feels more like just adults talking, and I find that to be way better for the show, for what The Simpsons is and always wanted to be. A satirical take on modern life in America through the eyes of a middle-class family. And for that, I think it always should be made in such a way that it can blend the lines between fiction and reality. Or, as it is the case in our reality, the things that 20 years ago were an impossible exaggeration became the actual truth. God, make it stop. Politics, environmentalism, and adult issues. These are not really kid stuff, and yet The Simpsons is globally marketed as for the whole family. Which is a really fucked up family to begin with, but I digress. Considering all this, it was always a no-brainer to me that the voices would be realistic. I could actually imagine a person sounding like this in real life. Hell, the voice actor for Homer did talk like this in interviews. He didn't have to change it that much recording.
Wieso kann ich Gott nicht auf meine Weise anbeten und mir das Gejammer für Sterbebett aufheben?
Und ich mag auch seine Art, auch manchmal seine dumme Art, oder seine naive Art vor allen Dingen.
However, in recent years there have been some changes in the show regarding Marge and Homer Simpson, because both of their first voices died. Pfft, what? After just 25 years they give up? The Simpsons is a very long-running show. Their new voices are much more like their US counterparts, which takes getting used to. Again, a dub can create a whole new take on a character or a show, and these two gave the couple exactly that. Also, they should have divorced a long time ago. Margie's never going to change. Why are you doing this to yourself, dear? Okay, so remember how I just said that a new dub can create a whole new take on a show? Well, this dub changes the whole show.
Flügeln das Blut.
Ich bring's gleich.
I don't know what happened with this, but it's like the anime Ghost Stories level funny. Not that the cancellation caused the studio to abridge the series on its own, although that's something I like to see happening in this country someday. No, it's that the dub is like... how to explain this? Okay, so you know, this is a very British show with very British duck people doing very British duck people things. Well, Britishness cannot be translated. So what the dub did is to make it very German. And that is something impossible to explain. You know the episode, It's a Jersey Thing from South Park? It's kinda like that. You have to be from Germany or understand German to get and appreciate it. Its mannerisms, its sayings, its pure culture.
Sind fast nicht zu unterscheiden.
Or another way I could try to explain it is the Boondocks. You cannot translate Black American slang. You can't! The German dub sucks! You had to change the entire show just like Count Dracula did. It's not... 90% of the jokes is not what is being said, but how it's being said. The voiceover for this movie is as good as the dubbing for Arkham Asylum is bad.
Ah, was schmuggelst du damit rein, Bats? Sag's mir, los, sag's mir!
Yeah, we don't talk about that. Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight is easily one of the greatest movies ever made. So whenever a high-profile blockbuster of this caliber comes out, there's a lot of pressure to get the feel of the movie and characters absolutely right. And they not only did get it right, they got it better, in this man's humble opinion. Lots of people made a lot of complaints about Christian Bale's voice.
Christian Bale. I'm Batman. You know, I might have actually enjoyed the movie if it didn't sound like he was gargling a throat full of dicks.
But to be honest, I have that a lot with many American media. See, the thing is, the voices are more natural in the original. They are filmed outdoors, the actors deal with wind or the heat and cold around them. And that is mostly a good thing, since this natural feel makes you feel that more as part of the world shown on the screen. In the case of The Dark Knight, it really harms the atmosphere to watch Batman talk in that throat-damaging voice. But also those little things I spoke of, like wind and such, can be easily and sometimes have to be filtered out for the dub, which can create a much more better experience.
I see. I saw you. And all people. Oh, even good.
And so Batman, who in the German version is voiced by David Nathan,
I have no idea who this is.
sounds a lot more pleasant in the dub. Well, as much as a guy who breaks criminals' face bone can be. But it's not just the voices that are better, it's the acting in general. Throughout the movie this happens again and again. The German actors just put a lot more feel and 100 times more of a punch in all of it. Be it Rachel, Lucius Fox or Commissioner Gordon, whose German voice is also the same for Lord Voldemort, by the way. Make a shared universe with all your movie franchises, Warner Bros. It's the only way how you can beat Disney. But the trophy for best voice goes easily to Simon Jäger as the Joker.
I have no idea who...
This guy is scary.
Du hast absolut nichts, womit du mehr drohen kannst.
I think the reason why I like his voice better is because his is slightly more high-pitched than Heath Ledger. Ledger's Joker is the usual deep-voiced serial killer guy, but Simon Jäger's is more in line with Mark Hamill's Joker, which is the absolute definite template Joker voice for now and all eternity. His voice cracks, you know the ones where he goes from very hysterical to extremely low and uber-angry in just a few seconds. Those are in the German version a lot more impactful, because there the change is much more noticeable.
I don't want to kill you. What would I do without you? Go back to ripping off mob dealers?
Ich will dich doch nicht umbringen.
Was würde ich denn ohne dich machen? Etwa wieder Mafia-Dealer beklauen?
And there are some nice little details he does with his voice that make that what is shown on the screen a bit more fitting for the scene. Which is funny because it isn't even the guy on the screen doing the acting. Or you know, I could just say anime in general really, but this has a special reason. You may think at first that this doesn't fit the list, but this is not about American shows, it's purely about the voice work. And it makes sense to let dubbing compete against dubbing. Every other entry on this list has been about the US or British media coming to Germany, but since this is from Japan, the leveling field is equal, and German dubs do simply take the cake when it comes to anime. And the reason for this is one word which I will display on the screen. Respect for the source material. It would be disingenuous to not point out that, yeah, Germany has its fair share of censorship too, since the studios don't seem to grasp the concept that animes like Naruto or One Piece are not really made for little children. And so you get ridiculous scenes like this where Sasuke finds his dead family. Oh, all this air. However, when it comes to the stories themselves, German dubbing is really respectful, something the US tends not to be, and it actually knows it.
Oh, 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 Shikuru, oh, 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 Shikuru, my, he's a demon samurai. Who's the guy who had to die? Oh, Shikuru.
Boy, that really blows.
Excuse me?
Did you even read the comic?
Yeah, I looked it over.
That was fucking 2.5 Men making that joke, people. The show I will bet my immortal soul on has never been discussed at a dinner table in high academia. In no other show is this problem more evident than in Digimon. And I don't know if you are familiar with the original, but let me tell you, despite the silly world and the occasional poop joke, Digimon is actually an extremely serious show. As a matter of fact, I watched a review by Yezu Otaku once, and I could not believe my eyes about the English abomination I saw. Dumb, unnecessary jokes every 5 seconds that were never in the show, and themes completely ignored or changed. How can I best describe what is so awful about this dub? Well, Shadow Realm. Seriously, Joker was killing people in Batman TAS 6 or 7 years before. How is that okay, but the other thing not? In the German version, they are killed. And people who die in the show, they don't go on vacation, they are dead. Because that's what Digimon is about. Heavy themes taken straight on. Divorce, regret, feelings of not being good enough, childhood trauma, fucking Cthulhu! Yes, for all you people who don't know, there's a Cthulhu episode in the 2nd season. You're welcome. And I can't believe that there has ever been a translate team that looked at Digimon and its great themes and was like, hey, let's remove all of that and just make it another dumb kid show. There is so much great character development going on in this series, so many subtle emotions, so much stuff going on, and it's all ruined because, hey, it's just a kid show, right? So yeah, that's pretty much my list. I hope you liked it and the German guy out and auf Wiedersehen.